Hi folks, Chris Schmidt with Key West Makers. Today I'm going to show you how we made, or I should say rebuilt, this fireplace, including the mantle, the surround, and the hearth. A few months ago, the sitting room where the fireplace is actually looked like this. It was undergoing a renovation project and it was taken down all the way to the studs. Since then we've got the drywall up, we have a faux shiplap over it. We put in a reclaimed floor that we handmade from old beams from a factory. We remade all of the trim, including new windowsills, which was a bit of an adventure, and rebuilt the focal point of the room, which is this fireplace. The renovation was well underway when I got the big idea that we should be recording this for a video, so I don't have footage of the fireplace torn all the way down to the frame, which is basically just 2x4s in the shape of the fireplace. So our starting place was really a 2x4 frame of the fireplace with the faux brick sort of insert there. We did have to make some more faux bricks, so I'm going to show you how you can do that yourself. So if you want to tackle creating a faux fireplace from scratch, you're going to want to get some 2x4s and frame out the basic frame of the fireplace. Another way to do it would be frame out a cabinet in the shape of the fireplace using plywood. But that's basically the starting point we're going from. If the fireplace is the focal point of the room, I'd say the peak on the apron is the focal point of the fireplace. So armed with my sketch that had dimensions and angles, I started preparing those pieces. Since the legs were the same thickness, I worked on preparing the wood for them at the same time. I salvaged some wood from the original fireplace and trim in the room. I also used some scrap wood I salvaged from other renovations around town. After testing for lead, I sanded the paint off and then ran the boards through my thickness planer. I had to glue two pieces on their faces to get pieces that would be thick enough. Once the glue is dried, I had to straighten one edge. My jointer, the tool normal people would use to do this, is on loan 2,000 miles away. So I set up my tic-tac-toe board on the floor and used my track saw to straighten one edge. Once I had one edge straight on each piece, then I could cut them to width on my table saw. Then I had to glue two pieces together to get something that was wide enough for the apron and cut it to length. The upside down V-shape, or the peak, I cut on the jigsaw, but then I needed to refine it with a hand plane, a rasp, and some sandpaper. Then I put a 45-degree bevel on the lower edge using a router bit that has a bearing on the bottom of it that rides along the edge of the wood. The pieces for the legs I had prepared when I prepared the piece for the apron, so I just needed to get a 45-degree bevel along part of the edge, but it doesn't go the full length of the legs. So I marked off where the bevel would start and stop, and then carefully routed those pieces. The mantle I wanted nice and beefy, so I started with these 8-foot long 4x4 Douglas fir pieces. Chopped them to length on the chop saw, cut them up a bit on the table saw, then ran them through the planer to get them to a thickness, and then glued them up. Followed by some scraping of the glue and one last trip through the planer to get it to its final thickness. Now the mantle piece itself actually has a trim piece built into it that's made out of the same piece of wood. So that was a bit interesting, trying to get a router bit all the way around on the edges to cut that molding piece. You see I had to clamp it vertically and then stand on a stool to reach the top of the piece. Before I can put a new face and a new mantle on this, I actually need to build I want to build the hearth up a bit. And the easiest way would be to use bricks of the same dimensions I have here, which I can't find. So I am going to make some faux bricks out of plastics, out of PVC. See how that works. By the way, it's not a real fireplace, so don't worry about the plastic. So I'm using PVC for the faux bricks. If I used wood, wood will expand and contract with humidity and with the seasons, and those faux bricks will have cement between them, and I don't want a gap or that cement to be cracking. This stuff will stay the exact same size the day I cut it till the day somebody pulls it out many years from now. So let's get cutting those first. Once the bricks were the right size, I beat them up a bit with a hammer and with an awl and some other devices, sanded them around the corners, roughened them up a bit, then put some gravel on my workbench and pounded them into the gravel. Okay, I gotta show you this. My bricks are done and I couldn't be happier. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but the texture on these bricks, I would put up against any real brick. All my faux bricks are glued in place with construction adhesive, and I'm going to put some sanded grout in between them, simulate concrete, cement, whatever, mortar. While the bricks were gluing, I finished up all the small little trim pieces. Some of the trim pieces I made myself on the table saw, and there were other parts that I bought trim at the hardware store and then just cut them to fit. I also primed and painted most of the major pieces before I installed them. I did that off camera, and somehow, inexplicably, I also assembled most of the fireplace off camera as well. But you see all those major pieces in place here while I'm installing the trim bits. Here it is, completed with its fresh coat of paint. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you liked this video or were inspired by it, please give it a like and consider hitting the subscribe button. And right next to the subscribe button, you'll see that little bell. That means you want to get notified when we put out our new videos. Thanks again, everyone. Chris Schmidt signing off from Key West.